This episode of the WP Builds podcast is brought to you by GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with the Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. Find out more at go.me/WP Builds. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, very good. We're trying out a load of different platforms to try and make video go in all different directions. This one, though, is kind of cool because you can do this. Yeah. You're liking it? Yeah. Yeah. What about this? Oh, we could do this all day, but we're not going to, because we're going to talk about WS Form and all of the different AI things that it can do. That's right, isn't it? We're talking about AI today, yeah?
Oh, talking about AI today, yeah. And why on earth would you want to use AI in a form?
Yeah, honestly, I remember so there's kind of two pieces to this story today. There's something brand new which Mark has launched, which will be really cool to look at. But there was also AI. You were the first, I think, the first WordPress form solution. Maybe you were the first form solution, I don't know, that threw AI at forms. And I remember seeing that press release and thinking, how could I possibly use AI in a form? And then, of course, I saw it and I thought, oh, yeah, that's nice. That's a really cool implementation.
Yeah. And I think we're all still learning how we can use it and, ways in which we can use it to improve what we do. So.
Yeah, we've got a limited amount of time because at some point it will learn how to use us.
Yeah, and then, it'll start coding itself.
That's
and then
right. Yeah, we will be in deep trouble. Just so that you know, if you are joining us live, first of all, I appreciate that very much. That's really, really cool. Thank you so much. One of the things that I probably should say is we're on this new platform, and if you're joining us in Facebook, you might have to grant permissions to this new app. If you ever watched us before, basically, we've used this once before, so it's highly unlikely that you've done this. So if you're in Facebook, go to wave.video/lives/Facebook and click the button to authorize us to see who you are. However, if you're on wpbuilds.com/live, which is where typically most people end up, you can be logged into Google, YouTube comments, and you can make comments there, and they should come through. Hopefully they will. But if you want to share this stream, if you've got people who you think might be interested in what Mark's got to say, then share that, wpbuilds.com/live. And I think that's all I wanted to say, but we do have Rob Cairns joining us, so let's just share his comment. I'm here making my mission. It's been Rob's mission every week to get Mark to do pizzas, and of course, the one time Rob didn't show up was the time that you did.
We did do pizzas.
Yeah,
so he missed it. That's it.
No, so you missed it. Sorry, Rob. It's too late. But yeah, if you want to drop in a comment, if you've got a question, please do so. But what I'm going to do now is I'm probably just going to hand it over to Mark. I'll put his screen up. And if I interrupt, I apologise, but it's probably for a question or it's something I want to ask.
Please do. That's how we roll.
How
we roll. So yeah, before we get started, let's just remind everyone about the 20% offer.
There he is.
There he
is.
At him.
Love that.
So wpbuilds.com/link/WS form. If you go to that address, you can then use coupon code WPBuilds and you can get 20% off any edition.
Nice.
So we have 3 editions. There's a personal edition, a freelance edition, and an agency edition. So they're all included in that 20% off. What we're showing you today is the OpenAI add-on for WS Form, and that is currently free to download. So if you've already got a copy of WS Form, you can go on to our add-ons page and actually download it from there free of charge. Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
So
hang on, wait. I'm gonna.
I feel like we need background music next time we do.
That's right. Yeah.
Just the whole way through. So, yeah, why use AI in forms? And I get asked this quite a bit, and I kind of asked myself it as well whilst we were originally developing this, because we actually used the moderation component of OpenAI initially because we wanted to use it to try and prevent spam. We're always trying to find ways of trying to cut down spam from forms. And OpenAI has a component where you can feed it some text and it will analyze it and let us know if there's anything in there that's potentially violent or abusive or anything like that.
Got it.
And that's where we started off with this. And then we looked at some of the other features that OpenAI could give us, like producing content, and thought, well, this would be great. For example, if I created a form to make a post, you could actually type in a description, it would write you some content, and then you could then use that content, modify it, improve it, and then use that as your post content. And then we also went a little bit further and went into actually using images as well. So you may have seen the DALL-E component website where you can build images from a description.
Yeah.
We've actually incorporated that into the product as well. So in general, with our OpenAI add-on, you can actually now use it to create forms as of last week. That's a new feature that we've put together, and we're going to show you how that works at the moment. Creating content, you can also edit content as well. So you can give it a paragraph of text, give it a description of how you want that paragraph to be changed, and it will then edit it. And then, as I was saying, you can moderate content too. So you can use that in WS form to actually identify content that you would want to flag as spam. So what is OpenAI? Now, OpenAI it's a beast of a system. There's a lot of moving components to it, but these are generally three of the main things that people are familiar with. I'm not going to go into any specific models or version numbers in this video because within a month or two, they're going to be redundant. We're currently at GPT-4, but I'm sure there's going to be a GPT-5 or something else that they come out with. And so GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's an OpenAI model, and basically what it is, it's gone out onto the internet, soaked up a lot of data, and then that is then used to understand and generate human-like text. So you can basically ask it questions in a human-like manner. You don't have to code it or anything. You just use natural language, and then it will then spit back language back to you that you can understand as a human. So there's ChatGPT. ChatGPT is based upon this GPT model, and that's something you may be familiar with. You may have signed up for it, where you can basically ask it questions. It's almost like Google supercharged. So rather than you having to go through results, it gives you an immediate response. Now, each of these models is based upon data that has been collected up to a certain point. So GPT-3 was up to a certain year. If you asked it any questions after that, it had no idea what was going on. GPT-4 is a bigger library of information, and it's more recent. And they're now producing plugins for OpenAI where it can actually go out and get data in real time, which is really cool. So there's a lot going on with OpenAI, but fundamentally what we're working with in OpenAI is the models. We're asking the models questions, and the models are giving us back information. And we are going to keep the OpenAI add-on up to date with those latest models. So as the new models come out, you'll be able to select those within WS Form. And then there's DALL-E as well, which is where you can ask it a question, ask it to create an image using a description, and it will then fire back, currently, I think, a square image of the thing that you have described. And again, that uses GPT behind the scenes as well. So there are 4 main endpoints that we're working with, and you'll see that when we come on to the demo, but we're talking about completion. So that's where you basically ask it a question, it will give you some data back. There's a chat endpoint, which enables you to actually interact with OpenAI as if you're chatting to it, creating images and moderations. So let's do a demo. Let's stop looking at PowerPoint.
I actually didn't. That was. Sorry to interrupt. That bit was really interesting. I actually didn't know that that's how it worked. I didn't know that there were those 4 different endpoints for the different kind of scenarios. I've only interacted with either the web interface for ChatGPT or with some kind of app. But you're obviously in the chat interface in that scenario anyway. Yeah.
And there are, so if you're interested in learning more about OpenAI, they do have some great documentation on their site. And you can learn about these different endpoints. So they've also got things like a transcription endpoint. Like you can you can give it audio and it will transcribe it, and things like that. We don't get involved in that in WS Form, but yeah. And then there's a page on their site, I might get a bit bigger, that describes all of their models that they have currently. And basically, what they're doing is, as the models progress, they're getting more and more. The library of data that it has available to it's getting bigger, and you could also ask it more as well. So you can give it more data, and it will give you more data back. So you'll see, like, these tokens. I think one token is roughly about 4 characters in the English language. So you can, as they improve, you can give it more content and it will give you more content back, which means you can just handle more and more complex things, like give it more code to look at and things like that. But again, these are continually evolving, so we're not going to get stuck up on GPT-4 today, but we're just going to show you how it works. So let's do some fun stuff to begin with. We'll have a look at this new AI-generated form feature that we've created. So what this does is it enables you to describe a form in WS Form. So rather than just clicking on a template and you've got a static template there, you can describe the form that you want, and then WS Form, in conjunction with the OpenAI data, will then build a form for you. And this is very new technology that we've put together, and it's evolving, and we've got lots of more fun things that we want to do with it, but I'll show you how it works. So basically, first of all, you're going to want to sign up for an OpenAI account, and that's done through the OpenAI site. So you just click on sign up, and then you'll create your account, and you have to put your payment details in. But to create a form that we're talking about today costs 0.004 of a dollar. So it's microcents to actually build the form. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I think they used to give you some free credit. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But so it's pretty easy to get started with it. When you create the account in OpenAI, there is a short delay. Just bear that in mind for them to set up your key and actually get it working. So if you sign up and then put the key into WS Form and you find it's not working, there's just a small delay. So give it a few minutes to work on itself. And then it should work fine. Then once you've got the OpenAI add-on installed in WS Form, let me just make this bigger so we can see it more easily. You're going to get an OpenAI tab on the Add New page. And in here, we've got the AI-generated form, which we're going to talk about now, but we've also got some other templates for the other endpoints that we just spoke about, and we'll go through those in just a moment. So you click on AI-generated form, and it's now going to ask you to enter a prompt in for the type of the type of form that you want to create. So let's just do a very, very simple one to begin with. And
do you mind if I interrupt? Sorry,
yes,
Mark. Is there, and I know you're about to give us some examples, do you need to be mindful of the structure of your sentences here? In other words, are there preferable things to put in preferable orders? Like, do you first of all describe the general purpose of the form and then go into list the fields that you might need? And what I'm saying is, I understand that if you're a prompt engineer, as they're now calling them, you learn how the model accepts certain sentences and certain structures of language. Is that important here?
It's not.
Nice.
So with OpenAI, with GPT, you should be able to ask it the question or prompt it in just natural language. So it shouldn't matter which order you do things in. It's really about natural language. So if you wanted to say, hey, I want a form with a first name, last name, an email address, and, this form is a booking form for a hotel, it should work the same as you saying, I want a booking form for a hotel with a first name, last. Yeah, so it shouldn't really matter.
No, great.
So yeah, I've put together just some simple prompts so you don't have to sit there and watch me type this in, because that would be very boring. So let's create a form for sponsoring the Page Builder Summit, which Nathan is very well aware about.
I want this form.
Yeah. And we're going to ask it to have a look at a website address. So you can actually feed it website addresses to look at, and it will then look at the context of those pages and use that to determine how the form should look. Now, this is experimental, so we'll see what comes back. So we'll click on
so that was very basic, wasn't it? You literally asked for a contact form, and then you pointed it at a website.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in theory, oh, there you go. What was that? 4
Yeah.
seconds, 5 seconds tops? Let's see
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah. So just so that people know what's going on behind the scenes here, it's going off to OpenAI, giving it that prompt, and we're asking it to give us data back in a certain format, and we then interpret that data into a form. So you'll see that it's actually put an instruction box at the top saying, please fill out this form to sponsor the event. It's asking for their first name, last name, and email address. You'll notice it's actually made certain fields required. So it's determined itself which fields it thinks should be required. Now, obviously, you can edit this form and change anything on this form you want once it's created that initial form. So everything is editable. But this is basically giving you an initial form for you to play around with. But you've got everything in there, like company name, the website address, the sponsorship level. If we click on sponsorship level and go to options, it's actually pulling out different sponsorship levels and putting them in there for you. So you can modify those, because I know you have a micro level as well.
Yeah, but it worked out that there were those.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
A logo upload field, because you're going to need that, right, if you're sponsoring. Short description. So it's built the whole form for you, and you can tweak that, add fields to it, remove fields, and you see it's done that in 4 seconds. So super convenient. At the bottom,
is remarkable that it's thought about things like the logo.
Yeah,
that is truly fascinating.
Yeah,
wow.
And it's put a file upload field in there, which is pre-configured and ready to go. You'll notice at the bottom it also adds a note field to the form here, and that tells us which model was used and how many tokens were used to actually generate that form for you, just so that you've got a note of that. You can delete that note. That note doesn't actually appear on the form itself. It's just a note that's put in the WS form layout editor. So if we preview that form, you'll see that it's ready to go. You've got your drop downs working. You'll also notice that it's actually put width on these fields as well. So it's doing layout. So we're actually asking behind the scenes to OpenAI to say, hey, if there are 2 fields that are related, put them 50% width side by side. So we're doing a little bit of layout as well. And hopefully we can improve on that and maybe even do different sections and stuff in future. So that's, that was literally a prompt of build me a form from this website, and it's done it.
Can I ask you another? Can I ask you another question? Right.
Sure.
If we were to ask it the exact same question, is it highly likely that we would get the same form back? Or because I understand that if you go to ChatGPT and you give it the same prompts, you get different text back typically.
Yeah.
Let's
try it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what we've done, so in the API for OpenAI, there's a configuration setting called temperature. And if you set the temperature to different values, you'll either get a very similar response every time, or you'll get a slightly different response. So we've set the temperature kind of medium rare, so that it does give a slightly different response back each time. So you'll see this time, it is a different form. So
it's
we may
in
have
all sorts of country
this one.
Things, hasn't it?
It's only given it just 3 options on that one. Yeah. So just slightly different flavors. So you're going to get, if you don't get the result you want, try it again.
Have another go.
And see what it comes back with. Yeah. So there we can go a little bit further with that and be a bit more descriptive. So we can put the original prompt in, and then we can also just be a bit more specific with some of the fields that we want. So we can say add a first name, last name, email, logo. Let's do let's add a phone field in there as well, just to see if it picks up on that.
Okay.
And then we're actually going to specify the 4 different sponsorship levels. So let's see if it picks up that micro. We're going to add some instructions at the top, and we're also going to ask it to fill out the help text fields on that form to improve accessibility.
Nice.
So let's see if it picks it up. It may not, but hopefully it will.
Do you typically get something back within? You said it was probably 4 seconds or something. That's what you're experiencing. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, so OpenAI right now, obviously, it's still experimental. So there are times where their servers are just overloaded, and you may get an error coming back saying OpenAI is not working. So all you need to do is just resubmit it. It's just, even when you go to ChatGPT, they're on their website, sometimes that locks up because it's overloaded. There's just so many people using this right now.
Right.
So yeah, so let's have a look. So we've got the sponsorship levels. Let's have a look at that. So there we go. It's picked up the micro
Oh, it did.
sponsorship
It did
level.
it.
We gave
Check
it.
it
Yeah, it
out.
added the phone field that we asked for. Let's have a look. First name. It didn't pick up the help text on that occasion. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Let's try that help text feature again, because that could be. Let's do a simple form like create a contact us form and complete. Let's do add help text to each field. Let's just see if that works.
Okay, so the help text is the text that the user would see underneath the field.
Yeah,
Some
underneath the field. Yeah, I just want to see if I can demonstrate that, because that's, yeah, there you go. So that's actually gone through it. It's now filling out settings on each form, on each field. You can also do placeholder as well. So if we go back to add new, and we'll go open AI generated forms. So we'll do create a contact us form and complete. Let's do add help text to each form and add placeholders.
Should that be field where you wrote form?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, you should never type live on video. I'm never good at it.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Second.
So what did you ask it there? I was concentrating so much on that
I that one we were asking for placeholder text. Yeah, so you'll see it's actually filled out the placeholders. So if we preview
if you look at the form, got it.
Yeah, there you go. So it's now put placeholder text in there. Yeah. So it's weird. Sometimes it picks it up, sometimes it doesn't. And it just depends on how it's feeling at the time. Yeah, but most of the time, it's pretty successful in building a base form.
Well, I'd say so far we haven't had an out-and-out fail. All of them have been utterly serviceable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll do another one. Let's create a form for creating a product review. So we'll do that. So we're going to do create a form for reviewing a product. At the top, add instructions, first name, last name, and email address, which should all be required fields. Include a rating field and a field for uploading photos that should be optional. Okay. So let's see what that does.
Let's see what goes down.
Yeah. First name, there we go. So there's our rating field. So yeah, so there's your a basic rating form. Let's run it exactly the same again and see what we get.
Do you need to be mindful of the specific language there? So you have a rating field.
Yeah.
Do you have to use the word rating, for example? It has to go with that exactly.
I would think so. Yeah. I haven't tried it with other language, to be honest. Okay. It's such a new product that it just, we're still learning how to use it. So one thing that I recently discovered is if we go to add new. And go open AI, you can actually ask it to build forms in different languages as well. So if we create a form for renting an apartment for a vacation, create the form in Spanish. So if we hit create, it should, fingers crossed.
Now, there's going to be no way that I'm going to be able to tell you
so now
whether
it's
that's true or not. But if anybody in the comments has a vague understanding of Spanish, let me know. But I mean, it's not in English. I know that much.
Yeah, it's not in English. Hopefully it's not offensive, but there you go. Wow. So you can actually ask people to do stuff in different languages, which is pretty cool. You can also...
That is remarkable.
Yeah. And you can also ask it to look at different websites as well. So if we do create a form for adding a WordPress person to this website, and this is Marcus Burnett's The WP World website, which is a great website. If you're not on it, you should add yourself to it. But if we hit create, it'll actually go off and look at a website and then build a form for it as well, which is crazy. So there you go.
First name, last name, job title, company, biography. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. Off you go. So there you go. So there's AI generated forms. You can basically use that to get the foundation down on a form, and then you can come in here and tweak that however you want. You can still modify required and anything that you want about that site. You can create multi-step forms and everything else that we've spoken about in the other tutorials that we created. So
that is totally remarkable.
Yeah, we're still learning how to make that do amazing things. There's all kinds of fun stuff that we can do with that. So that will be evolving over time. That product is literally a week old as we make this video. So, but pretty cool so far.
Very well done, mate. I've got to say, that is pretty amazing. I can
Yeah,
imagine the scenarios for onboarding your product
yeah,
through that are pretty
yeah,
cool, aren't they? With the best will in
yeah,
the world, you've designed a product, but it's complicated in certain respects because
yeah,
it can't be anything other. But if you can go in, drop in a form, and then kind of learn on the job, if you like, oh look what it did, where did it put that, and get to get to the races quicker. That's
yeah,
brilliant, really great.
yeah, yeah. And it's exciting to use the technology in a slightly different way as well. Most people have been using it to generate text and generate images. So we wanted to go a step further and use that output to then build something else. And I was surprised that we could get data out of OpenAI that we could use quite reliably. I mean, there are a few things that you would probably want to change on that form, but 95% of it is there. And I'm hoping that as we improve it and as OpenAI improves, we can really use this to speed up production.
Well,
So,
I think the key word there is change, isn't it? It's not like
yeah,
you saved a boatload of time. There is no doubt you saved time,
yeah,
and all you've got to do is just go in and modify it. That's kind
yeah,
of seemingly that's where humanity has ended up with AI at the minute, isn't it? It's
yeah,
you give it a prompt,
yeah,
it gives you something back, and most of the time you have to then change it in some way
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
not going to be exactly what you wanted. But
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
guessing that you'll get better at this.
Yeah, yeah. So, you can do silly stuff with it as well, like create a form for designing a dinosaur.
Ah, this is great. Go on, let's
And
see what happens.
let's see what it creates. So you can play around with it as well. But, there you go. Dinosaur name, dinosaur type. It even puts in, carnivorous herbivores and dinosaur
It's at
height.
this point I have to do this. Brilliant.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, play around with it and see what you can come up.
Beautiful.
All right, let's do some more boring stuff.
Oh, no, that was great. Okay, so that was the brand new bit. This is the bit which has been
Yeah.
around for when did you launch this? I'm thinking it was like 4 or
Oh,
5 months ago now.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So this is basically giving you the ability to use OpenAI within your forms. So let's start with the completion first of all. And what a completion is, and this is basically how OpenAI describes it, is that you're giving it some natural language, and it is then giving you some a natural language response back, and that data you get back is what a completion is. So the way that we do that in WS Form is we have a text field here for the prompt, so that is where you're asking the question. We have a button which actually goes off and gets that completion from OpenAI. And then we have a field called completion, call it whatever you want, but there's a field where that data that's coming back gets injected into. And we use conditional logic in WS Form to actually run that action that goes and gets that completion. So it's quite straightforward. There's a condition here that says if the get completion button has been clicked, then this make OpenAI request action, we're going to run that immediately. Simple as that.
Right.
So it's just click it and run it. And if we go to actions, you'll see that make OpenAI request here. And you
Oh, some
basically
settings, yeah.
just configure this to say, what you want it to do. So we're going to use the completion endpoint, which is going to give us some text back. We choose the model that we want. And then below that, we then choose the field that we want for the input. And I'm going to come on to this mask feature in a minute. But for now, we're just going to take the data straight from the field. We're going to use the prompt field here. We're going to output it in the completion field here. So let's preview that form. And then we can say, what is WordPress? Then we hit get completion. It goes off to OpenAI. It's now asking OpenAI for completion. And then we've injected that data into that completion field. So you could use this maybe on a form for creating a post, and you could add a prompt to that form that says, type a description for the blog. It will then write the blog for you. You can edit it, submit it, and actually create a post in WordPress using this feature. Now you can put as many of these prompts and completions on the page as you want. You don't just have to have one. So if you had a longer form and you wanted to have the ability for people to use OpenAI to help them complete some content on a form, then you can do that. There are a few configuration settings in here. So there are things like max tokens. And max tokens is basically the total number of tokens you're going to allow OpenAI to use to accept your prompt and create the completion. So for 150 tokens, you're roughly going to get about 600 characters allowance. Now, for a lot of things, that's going to be fine. But if you're asking it to produce maybe some code output where there's a lot of content there, or a much longer article, you would need to increase that max token amount. Now, on the chat completion, the max token amount is actually different to a normal completion. So a chat completion, if you leave that as blank, it's basically unlimited, and it will just let OpenAI go on as much as it needs. Yeah. For the completion endpoint, which is the one we're using here, if you leave that blank, I think it's only 4 or something. So you probably want to increase that. We set it to 150 by default just to get you started, because that's kind of a nice size, but you can change that if you need to.
Does that 150 tokens, is that both directions? So is that the prompt and the reply?
Yeah, it's the combination of the two. Right. Yeah. And it won't use 150 every time. So if you ask it something very simple and you get a simple response back, you're not going to use that many tokens up. Now, honestly, 150 tokens is going to cost you, a minuscule amount of money to do it. You could do thousands of completions and probably not even hit a few dollars. So it's on the tech side of things, tokens aren't that expensive to use. So I don't think I've even used my token allowance on OpenAI yet, despite the number of tests that I've done.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of other settings in the OpenAI that you can set. And so here's the thing, like the temperature here that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And you can control that temperature here by using this slider. So the lower that is, the less random the responses are going to be. The higher that is, the more likely OpenAI is going to give you a different response each time.
Got it.
So if you want to keep clicking it and getting a different response back from it to see if you like it, then you can increase that temperature and it'll give you a different version back.
Can I ask about that? Does that constrain? So you've described that it constrains, or it loosens up or constrains the difference in the response. Does it allow it to be? So let's say, for example, I don't know, you've got a very specific question. Does it allow it to sort of open up its own answer so that it is a bit more, for example, if you wanted something to be a bit wacky or go further and explore different websites and things like that? Is temperature simply what the repetition would do?
It's purely repetition of the expected response. So it won't go off on a whim and start giving you a joke.
Okay.
It'll keep it within the context of the question, but it will just change that response so it's worded in different ways.
Perfect. Thank you.
Some of these other settings I'm not going to go into today, but if you want to look into them, then go into the OpenAI documentation. It does get quite complicated. So, but we'll keep it fairly straightforward today. The only other one you may want to think about, though, is this API request timeout. So that by default is 15 seconds to get a response back. Now, on a larger response, it can sometimes take OpenAI a while to produce that content for you. So you may want to increase that. As the models are getting better and their platforms getting better, these responses are coming back a lot quicker. So you saw when we were creating the forms, it's coming back in about we're actually getting the response back in about 1 or 2 seconds now, which is pretty impressive to produce everything that we need. And it takes us about 2 seconds to actually build the form. But if you are doing something quite complicated, you can increase that API request timeout.
Does OpenAI give you its response in one lump, if you like?
So there's 2 ways it does it. Yes, you can do it just in one lump, which is the way that we currently do it. It also does a thing called streaming, where it will send you the response as it's being generated. We're hoping to implement that into WS Form. It's actually quite a different way of getting the data back and pushing it into the form. But when you're using ChatGPT, you'll notice it looks like it's typing.
Exactly.
But that's it actually working out the answer in real time. And you'll see in the streaming of that work come back to you as a stream. But at the moment, the way this works is it goes off, gets the request, and then brings it back so that we can then inject the whole thing into a field. The thing with the streaming is that as it's streaming it can actually edit itself. So it might start writing something and then change it. So we just, for now, we're just taking that full finished response and then putting that into a field.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a completion. That's fairly straightforward. Then you also, let's go on to, so chat is basically a completion, but it kind of just keeps extending itself and extending itself. So you're
Right.
almost,
It's not a
creating
discrete
chat.
one-off thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it takes the output of the previous completion and takes that into account as part of a chat conversation. Let's go to edit and have a look at that one. So the way that an edit works is you have an input. So maybe you put a paragraph of text in that you've written, and then you give it some instructions on how you want to change that input. So on that one, it's again a very similar layout to what we did before. So we've got the conditional logic, which runs the OpenAI endpoint once the button has been clicked. And we have make OpenAI request. So in here, we're using the edit endpoint.
Yeah.
Choosing a model. We're going to use this field as the input. Because we're using edit, it's also asking us for the instruction field. So if we preview that form, I'll show you how that works. So we can say something like the house is red, and then the instruction may be change the house from red to blue. So we hit submit. That's now going to send. Oh, nope, sorry, I hit the wrong one. Let's go preview. Right, so the house is red, and I will say change the house from red to blue. My debug console's in the way.
Yeah, it's okay. Got it.
There you go. So that's gone off to OpenAI, giving it the original input, giving it some instruction, and then it gives us the output. So this is basically using an instruction to modify textual content. So you could do stuff like make this more witty, make this more enticing, and things like that.
Change Brian to Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's basically what an edit does.
So that just that form would be really great if you I don't know, if you're working and you've got an editorial team, and you just want to tidy up an article, shrink it by, we've only got space on the page that's going to go on for 600 words, shrink this to 600 words or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could put that on your internal, I don't know, intranet site, if you know what I mean. And you're off to the races. Brilliant.
Yeah, we've had some people use this to maybe create a blog post, but they may have a field for maybe the meta description. So you can say create a meta description from this input, and then the output is basically a meta description field, which we then map to the meta description for like Yoast or something.
Yeah.
And you can use it to, generate dynamic content.
That's cool.
Yeah. Let's go back to completion quickly, because I just want to show the prompt engineering. So what prompt engineering does, this is actually how we do the AI generated forms. But with prompt engineering, what you can do is you can give OpenAI some additional text content, some additional input around what the user has typed in. And you can use that to then engineer the output that you're going to get from OpenAI. So let's see how that works. So if we go back into the action, and we'll go to make OpenAI request. So rather than taking the direct input that they've typed in and sending that to OpenAI, we're going to use what we call a mask, which is how you create a prompt. And I've got one that I prepared earlier, like all good cooking programs.
Nice.
So what we're going to say is the following is a conversation between an agent and a customer. The agent would attempt to diagnose the problem and suggest a solution, whilst refraining from asking for any questions related to personal identifiable information. Instead of asking for PII, such as username and password, refer the user to the help article rocket.net. So we're just going to basically give it a website, and then it will refer to that if it can't answer the question. And then on the field, we'll put 1251. So this hash field 1251 that I'm injecting into this input mask is going to take the input from that prompt there. I'm actually going to change this one from rocket.net just to godaddy.com, because the model I'm using on this one is a little bit older, and rocket.net is a new hosting solution. It may not pick it up. As much as I love Rocket, we use Rocket for hosting, but let's use GoDaddy because it's probably got some more data in there. So we'll hit save and close, and we'll preview this. And then you can say what's managed. Let's do what managed WordPress hosting do you have? So this can now be used in a customer support environment.
Wow.
So if we do get completion, so what it's now doing is going to inject that prompt into that prompt engineering that we just did. And you'll see we've now got a response back saying we offer several different types of managed WordPress hosting packages depending on your requirements. You may want to consider a basic package with shared hosting, a premium package with dedicated hosting, or a specialized package with cloud hosting. So it basically is using the data that it's got on GoDaddy to give a suggested response back. Now, there's certain applications where this may not be good, perhaps on a health website. You don't want people asking health questions.
Right.
But for a basic question like what hosting packages do you have, this can really be a great little tool to put on your website. You notice when I hit on get completion, because we've got the temperature up, it's now given us a different response. It's actually including the website address.
Yeah.
So each time you click on it, you're going to get a slightly different flavor come back. But on the whole, it's pretty successful in giving back the right URLs and the right information. So that's prompt engineering. So we
amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we use that prompt engineering on the AI generated form. So we're saying, give us the data back in this format so that we can build you a form. So that's basically how that works. So let's have a look at the image endpoint.
Oh, this is always a winner.
This works great. So this is actually using very similar tech to DALL-E, the image generation website that you may be familiar with. So again, we have a conditional logic on here that runs the OpenAI when the button has been clicked. And here is our action here. So we have an action in WS form called make an OpenAI request. We're using the image file endpoint. So what the image file endpoint does is it's actually going to go off to OpenAI, generate an image, and then inject that image into a file field. So you can then submit that as part of your form. We're going to take the input field here directly. You can, again, actually use masks on this as well. So you can prompt engineer images. So it gets even more complicated. But we're just going to keep this simple on this one. We're going to take the data from the field. We're going to choose the enter an image description as our input field, and we're going to output it to this image file upload field here. You can also choose how many images you want it to return. So let's do 3.
Okay.
You can choose the image size that you want, up to 1024 by 1024. And we'll leave the API request timeout at 15 seconds. That should be enough. So we'll hit save and close. And then we'll go. Now let's just quickly look at that file upload field as well. So we've configured that to use Dropzone.js. And the reason that we do that is that Dropzone.js enables us to populate that field with an image. A normal HTML5 file upload field cannot be pre-populated for security reasons. But with Dropzone.js, we can do that. So that's why we choose that. It's also just a nicer interface.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's much better. Okay, so let's preview that. And then, so we've got the enter an image description field on the left, and we've got the image output on the right-hand side here.
Okay.
So we'll do fluffy cat, and we'll click on get image. So now it's going off to OpenAI, and it's saying, give me 3 images back, and it will then inject those into this images field on the right-hand side with a bit of luck.
We could be, this typically does, I mean, it's creating images, right? It's going to be.
There you go. So we have 3 fluffy cats. Now, so
I like the beardy one at the bottom.
Yeah, he's a bit concerned looking, isn't he?
Yeah.
So these image uploads now, when I submit the form, would then become image uploads as if you had dragged them onto the form. So a couple of applications for this. Yeah, so
they're now part of the submission process. You could submit those into this form. Got it.
Yeah, so if I were to hit submit here, that then becomes part of the submission. You can use those images then within our integration. So you could push that as a post-featured image. You could push it to an ACF gallery. You can push it to a third-party integration, even push it through Zapier to any third party that you want. You can even write your own custom PHP code and take those images and do whatever you like with them. You can also use them with our user management add-on and use it to create an avatar image for a user. So when somebody registers, they could describe an avatar image here and actually create an avatar, and then that would become their user profile image.
So can OpenAI consume an image and then amend an image? You know, you were using edit earlier on text.
No, I don't know if it can. I don't know.
Because that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? If you sent it a picture of yourself. Because I've seen services to create your own avatar, but obviously for that you need to upload an image of yourself, and then
that's right. Yeah, and it learns it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does machine learning on it. Yeah,
that's fascinating.
I mean, yeah, who knows where the capabilities of this is going to go? But yeah, so we've basically taken what's available in the API right now, so yeah. Sorry, Andrew's asking about alt text there. Yes, you could do that. So on our post management add-on, let me just show you this. So we go into here and we go into image uploads. I think it's, let's see. So let's choose. So basically in WS Form, we have a thing called a file handler, and that's where the file is going to be saved. So if you were to save that to the media library, you'll notice in here that we have the ability to select captions, the descriptions, and everything else. So you can actually put WS Form variables in there that could come from a different field. So you could run a couple of OpenAI endpoints and do some prompt engineering and say, create me an alt text for this prompt. And then you could then inject that into that image and upload it using that.
I guess you could also just consume the content of the query. You know, in that case, create me an image of a cat. I guess you could, you know, send that and truncate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you would just put like hash fields, you know, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Yeah. Well, in this case, it would be 1, 2, 5, 6. So you can do captions, descriptions. Actually, this suggestion here came from Joost at Joost. He was using WS Form on a project with Michel Frechette. He wanted to be able to set custom captions, descriptions, and alt text on images. So we added this as a feature. So yeah, you can absolutely make that dynamic, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, and you don't have to just use one OpenAI endpoint in a given form. You can actually have a button trigger 2 or more of those endpoints. So you could actually create an image and create some text at the same time if you wanted to on a form, and do anything you want. Obviously,
that would be up in the actions section, right? You'd create more actions.
Yeah. So you go up to actions here, and then you just go to add new, and then you would click on make OpenAI request, configure that however you want.
Yep.
And then in your conditional logic for that button, you can then extend that, and you could say, right, also run this one immediately as well, and it will run both of those at the same time. So the conditional logic in WS Form, we have another video on that, which I think was maybe the second one, the dynamic.
I can't remember. That seems about right.
And that describes a lot about the conditional logic and how you can use that. But the nice thing about WS Form conditional logic is you can use it to control actions. So you can run actions. You can also disable and enable actions as well, based upon different conditions on the form. So you can do pretty much anything that you want with it, in terms of making the form dynamic. And in AI, we use it to basically take that button click and run the OpenAI request. So that can be any number that you want. The only other one that we have on here is, instead of creating an actual file upload field, you can actually get the URL back for the image. So images that are generated from OpenAI have almost like a permalink. And then you can use this to generate that URL. So you might want to use that URL somewhere else.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
A Google Sheet or something like that. If we do, that fluffy cat again. Number of cats I've generated.
I'm not surprised, frankly. That's where we're all ending up on the internet.
That's right.
That's what it was for.
What it was designed for.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's your URL. It's a huge URL, but that URL will actually, hopefully, let's see, grab that.
Let's see. Let's see what kind of crazy cat we're going to get.
There we go. There's our cat. So you can, so you can use that URL anywhere you want. Again, with any integration. Once that has generated, you can then create an action. We can go add action. We could say, or even run JavaScript. You can actually run it, show an alert with that URL, or run a WordPress, so anything that you want, or send it in an email. Yeah, so those images that are generated can actually be put in as attachments on emails as well. So you can have it
Yes.
email
Yeah.
the user. Yeah.
I just love what I would do with this is I would create an iterative cat. So I would ask it to create a cat, and then I would like to feed that cat back, and the text would simply make it more fluffy, and
Yep.
then just keep doing that over and over again, maybe
Let's
10
create an
times.
animation.
Yeah, and then just see where you end up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know we've got Andrew on the call who
Yeah.
has
Hi, Andrew.
Bertha AI is his product, which is a fantastic AI product that integrates in with browsers and also WordPress. So he knows an awful lot about
He
where
knows how
AI is
this
going.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Can I ask you? Can
I
I ask? Oh, sorry. You carry on. Sorry.
yeah, I was just wondering if he was aware of whether or not they're going to be looking doing video in future and things like that. Because they've got the imaging down, and I'm sure they're going to be improving on that. But there's all kinds of other stuff that it's doing, and I think the transcription thing is quite interesting. I actually wonder whether we could use that, upload an audio file as a file upload field, and then have it transcribe that into a text field. That might be
Yeah,
another
there
thing that
are
we
there
could do.
are there are software as a service products that are
Yeah,
making that possible.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, you were
Yeah.
saying.
No. I was just going to say that one thing that I thought was of interest that I would want to know: can you stack the fields? Because everything that we've seen so far is a discrete field. So you've added in
Mhm.
one field. But could I, for example, consume, oh, I don't know, first name field, last
Yep,
name field,
yep,
here's an image.
yep,
And, so for example, could I say to OpenAI, okay, consume the first name, the last name, here's an image,
yep.
combine those to make a picture of that person with their name tattooed across their head. You get the idea. I'm doing
Yeah,
multiple things. Yep.
yeah, you could do
Here
that.
we
So
go. He's going to do it.
yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll quickly create one. So let's do a first name field, a last name field, and then maybe you'd want like a description field. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you want to put together. And then you remember we were playing around with that mask.
Yeah.
So where it was putting in the
Oh,
field. So
that was
you
the
would
bit where
just
you could modify, you could instruct it how to cope with
yeah,
the request. Yeah.
yeah. So you would create your AI action. And so rather than say a specific field, you would say mask. And then you could say the person's name is hash field 1265,
65 and
hash field
66.
1266. And they are, and then maybe you do something like that. So you can use multiple fields on the form to create
Got it.
an input mask from as many different fields as you want. And you can actually use any of our WS form variables in there as well. So you can actually put in things like, hash blog name, or the blog date, or whatever variables that you want to use in that input mask as your prompt engineering you can use, which makes it totally dynamic basically. And you can build some quite complex prompts there. So, for example, you could have a select drop down on the field that was department, right? And
They're
you may
working
have
in. Yeah.
sales support, whatever, and you can inject that into the prompt. So saying this customer has a question related to this department, and then put their question in there, and it would change the output based upon which department that you're working with.
The sky
So
is the limit, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how you can use a form plugin and gel that into prompt engineering. I'm quite excited about the prospects of where it can go. And we have
Oh,
customers using this as they're using it on their customer support forms now,
it's
where
totally
you've not got.
remarkable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Just mind-boggling.
yeah,
I have one more question, if that's all right. So, on the
absolutely.
screen at the moment, if you're listening to this, apologies, but on the screen, mind you, you probably wouldn't have got a great deal out of this if you were listening to it anyway, because lots of visuals. I'm looking at a bunch of fields. So I've got text area, email,
Hmm.
range slider, and so on. Which of those fields, going back to the OpenAI bit at the beginning where you were
Yeah,
creating forms,
yeah,
which of those fields are you able to use in an AI created form? So, for example, can you say, give me checkboxes with these options? Can you
yeah.
use the color? Can you get it to make a progress bar? Are there some that you can and some that you can't?
Yes, there are. So at the moment, we've got text area, number, phone, email, URL. You've got the three main choice fields, which are the select, checkbox, and radio fields.
Yep.
And just to, some people don't know the difference between a checkbox and a radio. So a
Mm.
checkbox is basically you could have three checkboxes and you could choose any of those that you want, any number of them. So you could check all three of them if you wanted to. And a radio will always be just one of those. So if you choose a different one, it'll unselect the one that you've selected before. It'll do date, time. It'll do rating. It'll do file upload fields. We add a submit button and a GDPR checkbox by default on every form, just to make sure that those two things are there, because we want to make sure everything is GDPR compliant.
Yep.
It handles text editor fields as well. So if you ask it to write a description, it would inject the description into that text editor field. And we're going to be adding more fields as time goes on. So It's got all the kind of the main ones in there right now, the ones that primarily people will use. But we can easily add to it things like the color field and other fields in future. But if we let's go add new OpenAI AI generated form. So create a form with checkboxes that allow you to choose a color. I've never tried this before. We'll
let's
see what it comes back with.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Oh, well, there are checkboxes with different colors. Yeah. So, yeah. So it'll do. Yeah, and also like select drop downs as well. So we could do OpenAI AI generated form, create a form that allows you to choose a country from a select drop down field. So I'm just writing free language in here.
Yeah.
Anything specific.
Hoping that something comes back. I tell you
Hoping
what,
that something
we
comes
have
back.
been very lucky with the tech here. Nothing has gone wrong so far.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't put the countries in, but sometimes it will actually put the countries in there. Yeah, let's try it again. Just for fun, we'll just try it one more time.
Yeah. I bet now it'll work because
that allows
you did it twice.
Yeah.
Check a form, create a form that allows you to choose maybe you needed to be more specific in your language.
Yeah.
From drop down list.
Let's say put 5 countries in the drop down. This will be interesting because we're using the word drop down list. I wonder if it'll interpret that into a select. Because we always use the term say. This may not work, but bit of fun. But there's our country select drop down. And there's our 5 countries. So it works. Yeah.
Oh, look at which countries it chose.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Honestly, I feel like you've stumbled into something pretty remarkable here. You are going to save a lot of people a lot of time. Just run us through the pricing model for this. Did I hear you right? Did you say it was free?
Yeah, it is right now. So basically, hang on, let me bring up our pricing page.
Yeah, why not?
So that people know what we've got. So there are 3 flavors of WS Form. You've got the personal edition, which is a single site license. There's a freelance edition, which is a 5-site license, and that comes with some of our add-ons. And then we have the agency edition, which is unlimited sites and all of the add-ons that we have. Now, at the moment, the OpenAI add-on is free because it's basically in beta. We're playing around with it. And as much as you've seen it working today, we're still playing around with it. So grab it while you can because it's a free add-on for these. We usually sell add-ons for between $19 and $39. So I'm not quite sure what it will be eventually, but at the moment it's free. And that includes the AI generated forms feature that we showed today and all of those endpoints that we spoke about. So yeah, for $59, you can start playing around with it on the personal edition. Plus, we've got our 20% off for WP Builds viewers.
Oh yes,
with Nathan included.
Yeah, you get a free head. A free Nathan's head. So yeah, look at that. wpbuilds.com/link/WS form. Use the coupon code WPBuilds and you get 20% off. Honestly, Mark, I am in awe of what you've been able to do with WS form and the fact that you've done it more or less by yourself. The coding, the marketing, everything is truly amazing. I know you've got a lot of really hardcore fans, and a few of them in the comments here. A few nice comments as we were going through, people saying that this is really amazing. I don't know if you saw those, by the way. Excellent, Mark, says John. Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Hussey,
John.
said that's really excellent. And Elliot says it's very, very nice.
Hello, Elliot.
And also Mark, sorry, not Mark, Andrew Palmer said you were mentioning about transcriptions.
Yeah.
He said that has already been included in.
Oh, great! So that's in Bertha AI. That's brilliant.
Yeah, just add Whisper. Whisper is Whisper. It's like a rival to OpenAI. Am I right in that, or is Whisper a part of OpenAI?
Think so. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with it, but yeah, I'm sure if you go to Bertha.ai, it'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, thank you. It's been a wonderful series. I hope that people, use it and get the knowledge that you've given from it. They're all going to be on the wpbuilds.com website. If you go to the archives at the top and you scroll down to the last archives section, it's called demos, and all the 6 that we've done are dropping into there. So yeah.
And we've also put those linked to those in our WS Form community Facebook group as well.
Oh, have you? Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we're going to put them all on. We'll put them on a page. Now that we've got them all done, we'll put them on a page on WS Form's knowledge base as well. So,
and it's at this point that. I'll try a few more. Let's see what else we've got here.
It's ended. We've ended. Oh, there it is. We were looking for that earlier.
We were trying to find that one earlier. I'm going to do it again just for fun. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I think we should. I think we should round this off with the.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We just mellow out, have a cigar,
and
we don't need to do anything now because OpenAI is going to do it all for us.
That's right. What's the point, Mark? We just give up, kick back, relax. Take it easy. I've really enjoyed this. I really, really have. This series has been absolutely wonderful. Sadly, though,
thank you so much for having me on. It's been great.
I'm going to turn this music off. It's doing my head in. There we go.
We should have played that the whole way through.
Yeah, that's right. It would have really calmed everybody down. So I'm going to end it. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope that everybody has a lovely, lovely day, and we will see you all laters.
Take care.